Hey, welcome back to Arcadia. Mike here, and thanks for continuing to follow our journey as we build our fully integrated permaculture farm. So this is our spring 2023 farm tour update video where we're going to share with you some things that are new on the farm. And our theme of this year is correcting mistakes because we've made a lot of mistakes over the past 3.5, almost 4 years now on this land. And this year we're just girding up our loins and fixing them. Sometimes it's unpleasant work, but short-term pain for long-term gain. This video is a compilation of footage from throughout this whole spring. Obviously, we're a lot further along when I'm getting around to making the intro and making the video than we were when we were shooting it. But you know, aspiring to give you a little bit more in the way of action shots this year. So
don't be denied, don't be denied, and let those stars in your eyes shine. We all soar to different heights, so mend those wounded wings and fly. Mend those wounded wings and fly. We all see the world through different eyes. Some choose the road, some choose the skies. High above the world, show who you are. From way down here, you're a shooting star. From way down here, you're a shooting star.
the number and frequency of late frosts we've had this year is crazy. We've had 4 frosts after May 15th, and our typical last frost date by the book around here is May 11th. That means you've got to baby these plants in their pots rather than having them in the ground where you can just water them every couple days. Every morning, every night, in and out. Things are green and vibrant around here. One thing that's new, Kayla's been building a rock wall. I guess she can't spend a season without doing something with rocks. In the theme of correcting mistakes in 2023, working on sorting out my tree guilds. So here's the problem that we ran into. We started planting everything in rows, nice neat rows along here, and sheet mulched the row and then planted the plants in it, and then of course grass starts creeping in from both sides, so you end up with this. There's some strawberries, some raspberries in here, a few other plants, but they're mostly getting out competed by the grass. So this is the one I'm working on now. Doing basically an 8x8 square around it. This one is the model. This needs another load of mulch. Got another load of mulch there, but the raspberries I'm not super keen on having in here. But we have an apricot tree, raspberries, lovage, which I just transplanted, red clover, which I've seeded. There's a currant and New Jersey tea, which is a nitrogen fixer, a native nitrogen fixer, a gooseberry, and a haskap on the 4 corners, and then comfrey with every guild. We're going to plant a bunch more onion family, garlic family in here today, and really flesh this thing out, so that way we can whippersnip around the outside of it, mow down the lanes, keep this a little bit more under control so we have more of the plants we want and that we can eat and fewer of the ones that we can't eat. And after a full team effort, this is tidied up. So this is a gooseberry here that is on the shady side of the tree, so in the northeast corner. So once this tree grows up, it'll continue to produce. We've got 2 blank spots for fruiting shrubs in the front corners, We put in some spearmint for peppermint, mint, some kind of mint, to fill in as ground cover. There's comfrey here as ground cover, so there's 2 open spots for herbaceous layer plants around this pear tree. And then in the far corner back there is a false indigo, which is a nitrogen fixer and a native plant. So it'll attract pollinators and predators here. So a friend of ours gave us a single morel mushroom that she found out on one of her walks on a property nearby. So thanks a lot, Heather. Just Googled how to make a morel slurry out of molasses, morel mushroom, water, and wood ash. So made that slurry off a recipe I found on the internet, and it just says go out in the woods and huck it underneath some oak trees. So here's an old oak tree that we've harvested 2 stems from, and the 3rd one's probably not far behind. And hey, let's give it a shot. Hey, maybe 2 to 5 years from now we'll have some morel mushrooms. One mistake we've corrected is turning this path from a cutesy little stepping stone path into a hardscape path. Be a lot better for wheelbarrows, and perhaps even more importantly, it will keep the strawberries from this side of the bed running into Kayla's flower garden, which is these strawberries are super unruly, and they're actually not going to be here forever. This is going to become our spring salad garden, and there'll be a fruit tree in here, but the hardscape path is a lot easier to walk on, and hopefully it'll last us 30 years or so. Another mistake from, well, last year, I guess, because last year was the first year that I really started to take back a lot of lawn, is planting density, not just in the food forest, but in the gardens as well. We've mulched a large area, and then I didn't plant nearly enough plants in the area. So I'm remedying that mistake by taking the stuff that grew well, like this sun glow coneflower, and planting more of it. Something else that's new is our second batch of mushroom logs. This one is sugar maple that we did with a Phoenix oyster mushroom. And if you take a look at last year's, you can see a little white, and around where all the dowels went in, you can see the mycelium from the mushrooms. These are shiitakes in oak. And then we had a different kind of oyster. Then we had a couple extra sugar maple logs this year. So we tried just stacking them on top to see if the spawn will make it from the ones on the bottom, and just populate that log on its own. So we sort of sealed off with wax where all the little branches were cut off. So that one with a yellow oyster and that one with shiitake. See if it works. If not, firewood. Something that's new and an experiment that's worked pretty well, although as I say that, I see this grass coming up from underneath the logs. I'm a big fan of sheet mulching to establish a new area. Not the biggest fan of having to go look for cardboard, and you never really know what's in cardboard, right? Like what's in the glues and stuff that they use it to hold together. And the rule of thumb for composting is if you're ever putting leaves in your compost, you should break them up and shred them into little pieces. Otherwise they'll mat, and they won't let water through, and they won't let, which sounds a lot like sheet mulching to me. So in the fall, raked all of our leaves, put a good thick layer 2 feet wide, and then wood chipped about 3 or 4 inches of wood chips on top of them. And so far it's working pretty well. Even some of the perennials that I planted here that I actually ended up mulching over had some trouble coming up through them, which is good and bad, I guess. but the leaves are free, and I always need places to put them, and they fertilize the soil. So it sounds like a win for everyone. Recycling nutrients. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Pull back the wood chips to plant the plant, and there's a mat of leaves there that once you pull the mat of leaves aside, you can see there's still roots, persistent roots down there that are alive, but it's a lot easier than driving somewhere and hauling cardboard and taking all the tape off and laying the cardboard out. We just sweep the pile of leaves and throw some wood chips on it. Works well, seems to work well for taking back lawn. I don't think I would recommend it, or at least I'd have to put a real thick layer of wood chips for pasture grasses and things like that. First year for this little stretch of garden, and basically every year I'm going to creep these logs out another couple of feet and put the leaves down, put the wood chips over, and send it off to the and plant it as densely as I can, so as everything continues to creep out this way. Another mistake we've corrected is taking the center, or taking the edges out of our center. So again, another hardscape path with super high test landscape fabric, like the stuff that they have at the that they put on the ground at the tree nurseries and stuff like that, and getting this path from a grass path where the grass would creep into all of our beds. So exhibit A, you have these really tough rhizome spreading grasses that would just start taking over our gardening bed, and it's that would affect the growth of our plants and all that. So this hardscape path is here instead of the grass, and it runs downhill, and the moisture is captured in this bed. We're taking a crack at growing parsnips for the first time this year. Another mistake that's corrected is, well, maybe not corrected, but we're giving it a shot, is the cucumber beetle and cucumber mosaic virus killing all of our zucchinis. We're like the only people in the world who can't grow zucchini. So Kayla's fashioned some hoops with only minor injury, and we'll put a row cover over top of them and keep the row cover on until the female flowers show up, and only then take the row cover off, and hopefully by that point they're far enough ahead. Garlic is looking nice this year. We've increased to 600 heads that we're growing. The seed that we're saving is resulting in a better crop every year. Some of them we're saving for multiple like number of cloves in the bulb. Some of them we're saving for size. And these should start putting on their scapes soon. I'm looking for scapes. I don't see any yet. So we'll get our first harvest out of them soon. The garden may look unruly. The rabbit-proof garden may look unruly, but it's actually less unruly than it was 24 hours ago, because it is finally, the nighttime temperatures are warm enough to, ooh, there's a flower. We got to pick that off. We don't want you making fruit yet. We want you making roots. Hi, Jerry. So we finally are able to plant our tomatoes, which is at the same time we would normally plant them, but it means I don't have to carry them back inside. The early planting of peas are coming along. They're just starting to latch onto the, Jerry, get out of here. They're just starting to latch on to their string trellis. Had to replant the carrots because, I don't know, terrible germination. We're just getting our first harvest of radish. Snap peas are up. Lettuce and brassicas, spring brassicas, are looking pretty good. So, kitchen garden's starting to get populated. Field crop area, which was our biggest blunder of last year, it was just a disaster, and we basically gave up on it. And this year we have not tilled it, because we're going straight up no-till, but we did use this silage tarp. So we took the tarp, we put the chickens through here, we let the weeds really start, letting lamb's quarter and stuff really start to set seed, and then we tarped it and solarized it for about 4 or 5 days. Then we started planting. So we've got our overflow potatoes here. We've got some sunflower and field pea for chicken winter treats, and sweet corn. We'll also have pumpkins and our overflow tomatoes and peppers. And something else that's new is drip irrigation. We got given some from a neighbor who wasn't using it anymore. So Kayla's been working on laying out the drip irrigation plan and getting all the little bits and pieces that we need to make that work. So hopefully we will have a rock and field crop area this year, because we're none too experienced in growing anything not in deep mulch. We're not used to this, like having to deal with weeds. Another mistake corrected. There used to be a big compost pile here. All of our super low grade compost, sticks and brush and weeds and stuff pulled out of the garden, grasses, all that, used to sit right here. And we've moved it, created a new pile over by our chicken bedding compost, and could probably plant some stuff in here, but now we're actually able to make it around this spruce tree, because it used to be no fun getting by with wheelbarrows or lawnmowers or anything like that. Right nearby, another new thing, our 3-bay composter is fully armed and operational. It's definitely not finished yet. It's going to have a roof on it, and oh look, it's growing some funky fungus there. Crazy. And we are composting as aggressively as we can. This is our high grade compost. This is what we use to start our seeds and all that sort of stuff. So there to there to there. And hopefully we won't have to keep buying compost. I hate buying compost. Another new thing, this whole 2/3 of the garden, excuse my dirty farmer finger, is all newly mulched and planted out with potatoes. Every time we do a sheet mulch, which is, we put the cardboard down and then we put some compost or topsoil, and then we put a deep layer of wood chips on top. Anytime we do that, we love to plant potatoes in it first, because they don't really get out competed by grasses and annual weeds and stuff, and they grow up so big and shade out most of the competition that anything that does work its way through the cardboard, the potatoes do a pretty good number on. So that's all planted out to potatoes, and then we have a forest of cilantro coming up in our onions. This is all just self-seeded. The lawn reduction strategy is working with all of our lessons learned. But various hostas, shade-loving plants, planting a lot of bulbs in here, spring ephemerals, so it's nice and cheery when we pull in the driveway. And we're also at a point now where we've been growing stuff for long enough that some of the stuff we bought in our first year is ready to divide. So we're putting in a lot of divisions here, taking stuff out of where it is that we have it and putting it in other places where we'd like to see it. And this sheet mulched area here we're getting more into our native woodland garden. The last of the bluebells, Virginia bluebell, which is a native plant. They should come back with a vengeance next year. Some woodland phlox in there. The woods poppies just finished blooming. The foam flower is just finishing blooming. We have a little redbud tree there from Natural Themes Farm, which I'm super excited about. I love me a native flowering tree. And we're also cutting back sumac and putting in lots of trees like this. Mountain ash, another flowering tree, puts on berries that the birds just love. And filling in little gardens everywhere. The winter really did a number on the lilac and on the yew tree. So after they're done blooming, we may give them a pretty good haircut and sort of get a little bit less unruly form, because it's flopping into our pathways here. It was weighed down with snow for so long that we just so yeah, always more to do. And the view from the balcony is always a nice one, as long as you don't look at all the stuff strewn over our yard between projects and frosts and children. But we'll look at the gardens instead. The pizza oven garden is also new. The dome's still not sealed, that's why it's covered in a tarp. But this is Kayla's new garden, so it'll have a bunch of herbs for picking fresh and putting right onto pizzas. And then it's still to be determined, but we planted a peach tree in here as well, because again, this used to be a garden, but it was so overrun by the time we figured out what everything was that it's we're hitting the reset button and starting again. When I say we, I mean Kayla. So that's it, a little taste of what we've been up to this spring on the farm, some of the things that are new, some of the mistakes that we've been correcting, and hey, maybe it'll keep you from making some of those same mistakes when you're working in your own gardens or on your own farms. So thanks so much for continuing to follow our journey. If you like it, give it a like, give it a share, give it a comment. All that traffic helps to direct traffic to the channel. And if there's anything you'd like to see us talk about or like to see more detail on, please let us know in the comments, and we'll try to get that out for you throughout the rest of the growing season. So thanks so much for watching. Our next couple of videos this summer hopefully will be tours of other regenerative farms in the Hastings County, Quinte West, Trenton area. We're just working on setting some of those up. So keep your eyes peeled for that content, and we'll see you again next time.